Alrighty. Hi, everybody. We are going to give it just another minute or so. I know people are coming in from other meetings and grabbing lunch. So we'll give it a minute before we really kick it off. I'll go ahead and share my screen. For those of you who are just joining us, we're giving it another minute or so before we start the conversation, just to make sure that everybody can participate and join, and we'll kick it off in a few. Alrighty. Well, it looks like we are a few minutes past the hour, so I'm going to kick it off. We'll let people continue to join on as time moves over. But hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Kelsey Dupont. I am the brand manager here at DAXCO, and I'm so excited that you've joined us for our first Accelerate Leadership Roundtable. As you see, we have a full list of panelists here. Super excited for them to join us today. Before we jump into the conversation and dialogue, just a few bits of housekeeping. Everybody who is on the call is muted just to cut down on any background noise, but we do want this to be super engaging and interactive. So if there's a topic that comes up or you have a question in mind, definitely feel free to chat it in, and we'll be sure to touch on that along the way. There will be time at the end for Q&A as well. So if something is in your mind, you can hold it until then as well. So I'm looking as people roll in, but let's get started. So for those who might have attended last December, we had our virtual Accelerate event. And as we mentioned then, and we're fully confident now, that now is the time for all of us to rise to the occasion and accelerate our vision to greater change. Obviously, we know that doing so alone is not the answer. So that is why we have our wonderful panelists here who will be introduced in a few minutes to help us drive this conversation and allow for some time for some thought leadership. So today we are joined by DAXCO CEO Ron Lamb. So excited to have him here, and a few of the leaders from the industry, from the Ys and Js, and we're going to talk about all of their past successes and what they're doing to really propel forward in this new year, and also address some of the hurdles they've seen in 2020 and how they're getting out of that. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Ron, who can kick it off with introducing the panelists.
Thank you, Kelsey and Christy and the marketing team for pulling this together and bringing these distinguished panelists to share with us today. I'm really excited about what we have in the program. What are we trying to accomplish from your partner here at DAXCO? You know, we believe you can gain some inspiration from the various trailblazers that have different perspectives on how they're transforming their communities, how they're bringing their communities back together, given what happened with COVID. We also feel that we need more than ever to be able to connect and collaborate with our peers. I just miss seeing everybody. I miss the hugs. I miss the laughs. I miss, being around folks. And so we're trying to bring everybody together in a way that we can have that human connection. And then lastly, we want to immerse ourselves in some best practices. We're all trying to help our communities propel forward. We're all trying to accelerate our communities and really deliver on our various missions. And we believe that we're all in this together. One way or another, we're all trying to just help society be a better place to live. And if we can share some best practices, if you can learn one thing today, then this has achieved its mission. And so today, I'm humbled and honored to be able to share this Zoom call with three distinguished people who are doing great things in their communities. Let me give some quick bios. Todd Rockroff is our president and CEO of the Tucson JCC. He's been doing this for 35 years, so he's got a wealth of experience and seen a lot of ups and downs in the world. He has had experiences from everywhere. We both share kind of an Ohio background. He also has spent some time in Canada, as I did. He's also co-led and developed a number of really exciting national pilot programs, including starting the Western Regional Conference in 2017, which also collaborates. So we're gonna lean a lot on you, Todd, to share some best practices. Theresa Johnson is over at the YMCA Pikes Peak. She's a senior vice president and chief development and marketing officer. I am honored to serve on the board of directors. So one of my great pleasures in life is getting to interact with Theresa and her wonderful team down at Pikes Peak. So I want to say thank you to you joining. She began her career in the Y in 2012. But she's managed initiatives, partnership, corporate health, wellness, marketing, for many, many years. Prior to the Y, she was with USA Cycling for 11 and a half years as the vice president of membership and programming. So a wealth of knowledge about how we can reach and connect with our members and former members. And then also from Tucson with Todd is Kurtis Dawson. And it wasn't because we knew there was going to be a bunch of snow right now. This was set up a long time ago. But Kurtis Dawson is the president and CEO of the YMCA of Southern Arizona. He has served in Ys at all different levels and areas and worked his way up through the ranks to become a CEO executive director in 2008. Previously worked for 15 years, the YMCA Grays Harbor in Hoquiam. I hope that's correct. In Washington as the CEO and executive director. He's nodding that I didn't get it right, but that's, I'm from Flint, Michigan. Be happy I can even speak English very well. He played a central role in helping that YMCA prosper and surpass their previous levels of fundraising and budget. So he brings a wealth of knowledge and experience. So thank you so much to all three of our panelists for investing your time in our communities and sharing some of your ideas and best practices. Let me start with a quick question. We'll go around the horn. How has the COVID pandemic in this last year impacted you when you think about revenue, when you think about the number of members, childcare programs, even staffing levels? If you could give me kind of on those 5 things, what has happened to your organization so our audience can understand where you're coming from? So Todd, how about you kick things off? And thank you. Welcome, by the way.
Thank you for having me here and having this wonderful conversation. I hope that it's helpful to everybody. So for us, when the COVID crisis really presented as something we were going to have to close the agency for, we closed on March 16th. Hard to believe it's 11 months ago today that we closed our doors completely. And with that closure, we lost 92% of our income. Our budget is based on about 92% is earned income and about 8% is central funding and philanthropy. And while we did have some operating dollars to get us through the rest of March, we had to consider a couple of things along the way. First, we thought, silly us, that we might reopen early in April. And about a week into the closure, we recognized that this was going to be for the long haul. And therefore, we were going to have to make some pretty significant adjustments on the expense side because the April 1st membership and program draw was not going to happen. So we ended up laying off 265 of our 279 staff, which was a very, very difficult time. We certainly paid them for an additional 2 weeks, which caused some hardship to us, but was absolutely the right thing to do. And immediately pivoted our work to create experiences online. I've shied away from the idea of calling them virtual experiences because I think they were real experiences that were just being presented in a different way. And along the way today, hopefully we'll be able to talk more about that. And we went into this planning mode with a very small team to continue to deliver service to our members for the months of April and May in a virtual way. We presented a number of fitness classes, we had some book clubs, we had discussion groups, and I took it upon myself to talk to our members pretty regularly to let them know what we were doing and where we were at. And in the background of all of that, we were planning for our reopening whenever that would be. And for us, it turned out that it could be on June the 1st. We also leaned into philanthropy, recognizing that 8% of contributed income certainly could be more. And we believed, and the community affirmed, that the impact that we were making on people's lives was worth investing in. So we were very fortunate to be able to, during that period of time, achieve some new philanthropic investments in the JCC. And the one hire that we made during a period of time where we were actually shrinking was in a grant writer. And we felt that there was certainly funds to be uncovered in the grant and foundation world that we hadn't accessed before. So all of that got us to a point when we opened in June where we could have some smaller aspirations, bring back staff. We were very fortunate to get the payroll protection loan, which we were able to maximize upon our reopening. And our staff stuck with us. We stayed in touch with staff we'd laid off, recognizing that we were going to need a number of them back. And it really was, as difficult as it was and as painful as it is today to still talk about it, a real sense of community amongst the staff and amongst our members, knowing that we were all in this together and we were all going to navigate our way through it together. And if that doesn't affirm what's at the core, I think, of what the Jays and the YMCA movement is about, then nothing does. And we certainly want to acknowledge and appreciate Daxco for their immediate partnership in helping us both get information, be alongside of us, recognizing that as it hit us, what hit us hit you. And so we appreciated that level of partnership as well.
Well, thank you, Todd. Those are, I mean, it's an extraordinary story, right? It's just unbelievable. Why don't we shift down to Colorado Springs? Theresa, same kind of thing. Can you give us a lay of the land along those 5 dimensions of how COVID impacted Pikes Peak?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you for having me on. Good to see you. Yeah, so on membership, we lost around 40% of our membership. And so revenue got hit extremely hard. Programming, pretty much all programming stopped. The only programming that we were running was childcare. And that was hit and miss depending on the school districts, not much. So in Colorado Springs, we have multiple different school districts. So we can have, I think, probably around 10 different school districts that have 10 different rules about how they're going to either let kids go to school or not. And so for us, it was really adjusting and trying to be there for childcare as much as possible. The other thing too, we had to let go about 50% of our staff. And I think, yes, it was hard losing the revenue. Yes, it was hard not running program. It was, I think one of the most heartfelt things was having to cut staff and then to go through your staff list and go, who stays, who do you need to let go? What else can this person take on? And so you literally were just going through that. And I think that was probably, like I said, the hardest part for the leadership team to do, especially when no one knew what this was going to be like. And so with that being said, we definitely started assessing, okay, what are our priorities? Who are our priorities? Obviously our seniors flushed to the top. Of the staff that we had left, we quickly focused on 3 areas: was our seniors, our childcare, and our partnerships, because we knew that in Colorado Springs, we have a lot of nonprofits. And so there's a lot of partners out there that are doing really good work. So we didn't want our donors to forget about us. And we really wanted to make sure that we were communicating at this time the Y really needs donations more than anything. So we strategically started working with partners outside of our organization. So then we could, in marketing and PR and communication, start putting those good stories out into the community, which then led to donations coming in and saying, you guys are doing so much work, with other partners. So we delivered food. A lot of what we did with the seniors is we made almost 8,000 phone calls. We did food deliveries. We had staff that they weren't working. So what we used them for was they started making the phone calls to the seniors. They started picking up prescriptions and taking them to the seniors, and they started delivering the meals. And so it's all of those little bitty pieces that allowed us to really keep telling our story in the community. And then we really focused hard on the dues to donations. We had members that we had between, I want to say, middle of March to end of December, $188,000 of dues that went to donations. And so it's those kinds of little things that we try to focus on, because it wasn't a good story really for anybody, but we knew that by telling our story in a very creative way as much as possible, it was going to make a difference and make an impact. And we still are receiving donations from members. And we had about 30% of the donations that came in had never given to us before. And so that was significant. So, yeah.
Well, just not only significant, but might bode positively for the future, right? If we can keep them doing something in far as charitable giving, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Kurtis, I'm hoping you can be our cleanup batter and tell us things were just great at the YMCA of Southern Arizona. But I kind of know how this movie ends. But can you give us a glimpse into how this pandemic impacted you and your team?
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. First of all, thank you for having me on here. I don't know why I say yes to things, but I guess someone tricked me to say yes. It's pretty shocking. It's the same story. Todd and I, same city, but still with Pikes Peak and Ys and JCCs across the country, everything overnight quickly changed. And not only did it change overnight, but it changed the next day and the following day and the day after that. Obviously, our revenues were way down. Thankfully, I have a team of people that was able to quickly change their work in areas that we could do our work. It was difficult as a CEO to balance, those business decisions, those decisions that I have to make choices to ensure the YMCA is here for the next 100 years. At the same time, balancing those community decisions, those decisions that, laying off well over half of our staff. We have 153 staff right now, and we're usually well over 500-ish staff. And that's people's lives. I started working at the front desk. I know what that job was like, and I know how it helped me make ends meet. So even through that, we just tried to follow the rule of we're always going to treat people the right way. Our staff had sick leave, and we didn't have to pay them the sick leave, but we chose to pay them the sick leave. I'm a firm believer you do the right things for the right reasons and the money will follow. We had a donor come through and cover that entire expense for us without even being asked. She just heard the story and covered it for us, which was absolutely incredible. We quickly changed our work and started providing emergency childcare. I think we were closed on March 17th was the official day. We were closed the whole day. We found out the day before that we were closing via tweet, but that's a whole nother conversation. And by the 19th, we were ramped up our childcare so we can start serving those first responders, those healthcare workers, those people that we needed to, and at that time, even those ones that were stocking the toilet paper that we all desperately needed. I wanted that person to go to work. And it came down for us to really spend the energy and the time to focus on what we could control. I even told my staff, stop watching the news, don't get off of social media. All that's going to do is stress you out, because it was something that, I'm not that old. I'm pushing 22 now, but it's nothing we've ever experienced before. And in a time that we needed to be creative, and time that we need to have innovation, the more you watch that stuff, the more you get stressed out, the more you can't be creative, the more you can't be innovative. And so we, obviously I wasn't Big Brother and I didn't follow my staff around, but weekly we were meeting to stay on top of things, to know what we were doing and what's happening, and just the landscape. The financial piece of it, it worked itself out. We focused on our stakeholders, our board, our staff, our members, our donors, letting people know. And in a time when we could have caved in, and a time that we could have easily, and probably more than once I wanted to, get in a corner in a fetal position and just rock back and forth, we chose to, like many of you, rise to the occasion. And the benefit of that was absolutely incredible, because we separated ourselves in the community, just like Todd did, and just like Theresa did, in a way that never could have happened before. It would have taken a decade for us to show people that we are not just a gym, we're not just a pool, that we are open day in and day out, serving our communities. And so as a team, we really tried to focus on what can we control. We tried to focus on separating ourselves. I tell people, when I first got to Tucson, I wanted to close down the Y for a year and just have nothing happening, and re-interview everybody and update equipment and do all, well, obviously with our
So
work.
this is all your fault.
Yes, it is. It is. I hired a staff person from Pikes Peak, and COVID happened the next week, so I'm not sure whose fault it was. But anyways,
Let's blame Boyd. Let's just go there.
I'm happy to blame Boyd. I blame him for most things. But that opportunity that, to realize our day to day, we're just putting out fires, right? There's always something happening, and just trying to redeem that time and use that time wisely to hit reset on so many things, to be able to set a new foundation for the future. And that's what we chose to do.
Yeah, that's great. And again, thank you to all three for investing your time and sharing some of your best practices. That's a great segue, Kurtis, to my next question is the future. Todd, I'm going to start with you. What are 2 or 3 things that you're doing, maybe above and beyond what I would call kind of status quo stuff? Because there's things we want to do, right? We want to open the doors, and we want to, have clean, sanitize and so on and so forth. What are a couple of things you could share with our audience that might get them thinking in those creative juices about how we can go back and win back and bring people back, whether it's members, whether it's philanthropy, whether, whatever might be doing in your community that could get the juices flowing for our audience?
Yeah, I think, Ron, there are a couple of things. I think we've moved to a place of where it's no longer we're going to do this online or in person. I think moving forward, it's going to be an and. And I think we've learned that we're not going to be restricted anymore by the walls of our physical structure, that we have the ability to perhaps lean into online programming to create more real experiences for people in a way in which they want to receive them. And I would expand that to say that we actually may be able to get outside of our doors to begin with and physically go in person elsewhere, because the paradigm has completely been busted. In addition to that, I think that now more than ever, membership is going to be the outcome of the relationship. And while we in the end lost about 24% of our members throughout this entire experience, I think bringing people back is not going to be the traditional, here's the special, here's what the discount is, here's the reason to do it. We're actually going to continue to expand the things that we do, that we provide to people, and that them joining or rejoining or being a part of us is going to be the result of that. And we I think, like Theresa and Kurtis said, had a real opportunity during this period of time to show who we are, not what we do. And the who we are is the reason that people are going to join. How we treated our staff during a difficult time. And to the one thing I forgot to mention was that we paid the entire bill for people's health care in April, even though we had laid them off, because that was, to your point, that was our investment. How do you lay people off in a global pandemic and take away their health care? So showing people who you are is the reason that people will relate to you, not because you have the better treadmill or the particular class, but the reason to be here is because of who we are and what we do in that way. And I think that we will earn people back, and that our staying power will be greater because we now know that we shouldn't be shy about talking about who we are. And then there are nuanced things that you do because of COVID, whether that be curbside pickup and drop off for our early childhood program, which would have been unthinkable a year ago today. And now parents realize that they love the convenience of it. So I think we've learned some convenience things that we will be able to continue, including online reservations for swim lanes and lap lanes, And the fact that we're doing health screenings right now because of COVID has allowed us to be more relational with our members, and being more relational will lead to the outcome of their members. And we have seen our net promoter score through the engaged marketing that we do every month continue to rise. And I think that speaks to why people aren't just coming back, but staying here for the long run.
Great thoughts. Thank you, Todd. Theresa, what are a couple things you're doing and the team down at Pikes Peak that can get some creative thoughts going for our audience?
So one of the things that we did when we were shut down is we had a core group that really worked on our repricing structure. We felt like we were already pricing ourselves out of the market here. And so we knew that we lost a lot of those niche boutique type of workout facilities. And so we knew that when we came back, we needed to have the message that we have reduced our pricing. We're still increasing, our reach in the community. So we really have marketed on really pushing it out there that we have lower pricing, which has helped and starting to get the members back through the doors, new members who have never been members of the Y. The other thing too is that we've really been focusing on leveraging our partnership. So we have great relationships, as you know, Ron, with several radio stations here in the Springs and several television stations. So we constantly reach out to them to help us get a story out or a PSA from Boyd. So we're constantly trying to get that information out there. We're actually now looking at a partnership with PBS. So everybody has a local PBS for the most part. PBS has the same demographic that the majority of us are going out. So we're looking at a very lengthy, in-depth partnership because they have 90,000 members for the PBS, and we want them, and we want to be able to communicate who we are at the Y. So it's those types of partnerships that we're out there. We're doing research, like who is in that space or who has communication with the folks that we want in our centers, because we are going to come back strong. We are already coming back strong, and we know people. The Y is about safety and security. And people know that with that brand. And so there's some really good partners out there that also want to be associated with the Y the way we want to be associated with them. So those are just kind of some of the things that we're working on right now.
Yeah, that's a great one. I had not thought about the PBS angle, and I'm sure they're looking for partners and content and things of nature. So that's very, very interesting. Kurtis, thoughts that your team is doing to kind of raise the bar and do something special?
You can through the campaign, especially, and then moving forward, one of the things we focused on is our product, and especially around that membership side, around fitness. And we have some of our facilities that are, I'll say they look dated. We had some equipment that I would say would be museum pieces, but we chose to invest in our facilities, believing that humans are wired to be in community, believing that our members are dying to get back in our facilities. They are longing to be back in relationship with people. And in a day and age when we are more connected than ever before, people are more lonely than ever before. So we invested probably 400 or 500 gallons of paint, updating stuff, and not wasting the day, but keeping staff working and understanding what our standard of excellence should be. Too often we look at nonprofit as second class when all that is the tax status, and we should be the best of the best in whatever arena we're working in, knowing that if we're the best of the best and we're increasing our profits, that's going right back into our communities to serve kids and families. And that's what it's all about. So product, taking a new look at our product. What can we change? What can we do? We have empty buildings. Arizona had 2 shutdowns, so we had empty buildings for months, and taking advantage of that time to update stuff. So when people walked in and when they're coming back over the next few months, it's the before and after pictures are shocking. And it's exciting to see that the staff are understanding that standard of excellence and what we want to have and to keep that standard there. That next piece for us is culture, is people. All of a sudden we have a lot fewer staff on the membership side of things. And we have the ability to train those staff to a new standard that would have been not impossible, but a lot more difficult to do because there were so many more staff. And what is it? Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So it's all about that culture. It's all about laying that foundation of understanding why we do what we do, understanding that continuum of the member experience and all of those touch points, and that front desk position literally opens the doors for people to change their lives forever. And that's the effort we focus, so that as we bring people back, it's a new expectation that we're not going to allow them to have a lower standard anymore, that we're going to have this healthy sense of competition between our staff, between our branches, because that competition's for mission, that competition's for community impact. So those are two things. And the third thing we focused on during the pandemic and now moving forward is I'm just terrified to see where kids are going to be at when they get back to school and we start seeing these testing results. You know, it's normally it's summer learning loss, right? Well, this is going to be a COVID cliff. And so our efforts to make sure that we're helping those kids that now we are their virtual classroom and have been, I don't know how many of you work day camp, but 3, 4, 5, 7 weeks at day camp is hard enough. We're going on 11 months of day camp that we've been doing, and being able to help these kids as much as possible, being ready for the starting line in kindergarten, reading at level at 3rd grade. It's obvious and the statistics are out there. If you're not reading at level by 3rd grade, you're probably not graduating high school. And we know the determinants after that. So whatever we can do to partner with the school district, to partner with parents, to ensure that these kids are and a time management, they've missed so much, right? Ron and I miss our hugs, but they've missed birthday parties, they've missed sports seasons, they've missed going to grandma and grandma. I mean, all that they've missed. So we've really tried to focus and create that empathy for those kids, because it's been a long haul for 11 months, but it's all been worth it.
Yeah, you bring up a very interesting point with our youth. That's going to reverberate for a long time. There's no question. And I've got 2 kids in school and virtual school. It's not like in person. And I would have been toast. I struggled in elementary school. I was ADD and all that kind of stuff. There was just, man, oh man, I have great sympathy for those who are doing it. When we think about these types of times, I'm going to give you kind of a 2-question piece. Sometimes we'll develop a rallying cry, like what is our theme for how we're going to get through this thing? And so I'd be curious if A, you developed a rallying cry, or B, if you have one going forward, or maybe neither. And then that all goes to what I would say is staff morale. I can tell you it's something that we think about a lot at Daxco. We've got about 700 people on our team all over the world, and they're used to working in offices and having a really tight culture and interacting. And because of everything, I think our office capacity is 10%, ish, and that gets turned on and off at the government's discretion. So, there's this community that's gone, and so I'll just be completely transparent and vulnerable. We're struggling with it. There's no when I got my master's program, I don't know if I slept during the class of how to handle a pandemic, or I didn't get the book, or I forgot it, or whatever, but I don't know. So I would toss it out and say, did you have a rallying cry to survive? Do you have a rallying cry now? And how does this impact staff morale? Todd, why don't we start with you?
Well, to be sure, this has an impact on staff, and from the outset, we knew that. And a couple of things that I'll share. We participated throughout the spring and into the summer in a pulse survey offered by an organization called Leading Edge, and it really helped us measure exactly where people were. And it gave us some very clear anonymous information about mood, wants, needs, desires, and it really was helpful to us in being able to react. And then on the proactive side, it was all about communication. And while that may sound like a really weak understatement, but to be able to authentically talk to and listen to the staff in terms of how they're doing, we were asking an incredibly difficult thing. I think everybody, Ron, was asleep with you during the how do you handle a pandemic class. And we were all building the bridges we were going across it. And I think the sense of togetherness did help, the sense of benchmarks and accomplishments of first draft of the plan to reopen, first outreach of getting someone to register back for programming, ongoing communication with our families, with our seniors, with our members, all gave people a sense of purpose. And then encouraging staff to take time off. Even after we brought people back, and there may not have been any place to go, excuse me, the need for respite was really important, and acknowledging that and providing for that was really important. We actually offered our team, because people still had 2019 vacation days left that by our policy they would have lost during the closure. And we allowed people to carry those over till the end of 2020, or we allowed them to buy them out, or we bought them out. So it was just a way to also provide some extra income for some of our staff, because if they weren't going to be able to go away, they could buy out their 19 days and still have their 2020 days that they could use for that much needed respite. The rallying cry was really, we can do anything together, and we can do anything in partnership. And I think I'll just preview, when we talk about collaboration and partnership, it's so essential to use and work with other organizations to better yourself. We were very fortunate to get a grant from Pima Council on Aging. It kept our restaurant in business. We're serving still 1,000 meals a week to apartment buildings that are operated by Catholic Community Services. So it's a three-way partnership, and everyone was able to benefit. And when we think about working together, we're not giving up power, we're gaining strength. And this idea of us gaining strength together was really the way in which we've tried to approach everything that we've done. And it's not a moment in time. We need to continue to check in with our staff and community, because there's not a defined end in sight, and the lift continues to get heavier in a lot of ways. So being able to talk to our staff, I do a talk on Zoom once a month, where I have about a 10-minute presentation and about 40 minutes for people to ask questions of me. And then we go to staff meetings and talk very one-on-one with people. And I think it's really important that they hear from us, they know that we care, and that we know that we're honest, because sometimes we don't have the answer. And sometimes the answer is not an easy one. And I think for us as leaders to be able to also say, it's hard for us. This isn't something that's happening around us, it's happening to us too. We're not seeing our families, we're not seeing our children. We're not able to go do the things that we want to do. So we really are all in this in every way together.
Yeah, that's so strong. So Todd, you said you do 1,000 meals a week and distributing them to
There are several different apartment complexes where we drop off lunch and dinner.
And they're run by,
trying to become like our own DoorDash.
And they're run by who?
They're run by Catholic Community Services.
And the partnership with your JCC and Catholic Community Services, I gotta ask, where did that come from? That's awesome.
Well, it came through Pima Council on Aging, who had the contract to provide them meals, and they needed a purveyor, and we had a commercial kitchen. Yep. That was able to accommodate. So it's been a great three-way partnership, and we're grateful that it's continuing. And most of all, at the end of the day, we're grateful that seniors that are living in these apartments are getting 2 meals a day, 7 days a week.
Amen. It reminds me of Jorge Perez in Cincinnati. He got a grant, and I may not be getting the story exactly right, but he received a grant, and the local Parks and Rec did not get a grant. And they contacted him, apologize, about, how are you successfully getting this grant? And Jorge was like, well, what are you trying to do? And they're like, well, we're trying to take care of our kids. And something that was very inspirational to me is Jorge said, they're all our kids, and gave some of his grant money to his so-called competitor. And I just love stories like that. Just love stories like that. Theresa, what, same kind of question. Do we have a rallying cry? Do we have a rallying cry? How are we thinking about it? And staff morale is an uphill climb. What are we doing down at Pikes Peak on this?
It is. We did not have a rally cry. We all definitely had a good cry during all of this, but not a rally one. But yeah, no, staff morale, it was tough. When staff started seeing that their peer wasn't going to be there the next day, I mean, that was pretty tough on them. One of the things that we did and we continue to do, and I keep going back to partnerships, but Todd, like you were saying, I mean, you got to leverage those partnerships. We had a partnership with Care and Share, and you would think that when everybody is stretched thin, everybody's working long hours, that the last thing they may want to go do is volunteer for another organization. But we would have these opportunities for staff to sign up to come and volunteer, and they filled up. So we would try to, fill like 25 spots per day, a couple of days a week. They would fill up because the staff wanted to be together, and they had a great time giving back to another organization. We did it socially safe. We still do some volunteering, and I'm always surprised at how quickly we can fill spots for volunteer work in the community for another organization, because staff do want to be together. As you guys, most of you know Boyd, he has a upbeat spirit. He has great energy. And so, we're always challenged to get out there in the center of senior leadership, work alongside, scan, do whatever it takes so that our teams know that we're there for them. The other thing too is that whenever there is a concern, a question, we are very quick to respond. We put our staff first. Our morale has to come first, because if they are upbeat and they're positive, that energy is going to show to the members. And we just want that continuing to happen for not just them, for the members, just across our community. So yeah, it's tough. It is. There's no denying it and everything. And now there's, the concern is, are we ever going to come back? And so we have to keep putting on that face. Yeah, we're going to come back. We're seeing it every day, little by little, it's happening. And we just have to keep reminding them.
And Theresa, for those who don't know Care and Share, tell me a little bit about that. Is that a Colorado Springs thing? Is that something nationally?
You know what? That's a great question on the national. It basically is a food bank. So most communities do have a food bank to where they source food, whether it comes from private donations, other nonprofits, stores, whatever. And so all these different food would come in, and then we would go in and sort it and clean it and bag it and pick through it. It was crazy fun work, to be quite honest.
Yeah, my wife did that about a month ago. I had some funny stories, and then there was a show on TV called Blackish, and they had an episode where they went to the and it's pretty hysterical. If you watch that show, it's worth finding that particular episode. But Kurtis, did you have a rallying cry? Do you have a rallying cry? And are there some things that creatively we could share relative to employee morale that you're doing?
I don't think we had a rallying cry. I think we did have a rallying moment, though. I mean, once we were shut down and we made that commitment that we were going to do emergency childcare for first responders and healthcare providers, and that was a moment where it was an intense meeting, because if I didn't have faith in my team, I would have said, we're just shutting down. I'm not going to take the risk to, even though the community needs us to, I am not going to take the risk to have kids coming in here and serving them, because at that point we really didn't know much, right? We didn't know if it was a bubonic plague or what it was going to be, and it was a very scary time. But that moment and everyone just basically said, I'm in. And at that time, I'm in not as an executive director, not as a CEO or anything like that. I'm in as Kurtis. And where do you need me? I'll show up and work the desk. I'll show up and do this wherever we need to be. And it was really a all hands on deck experience. And the way that this team has come together through this difficult time has been unbelievable. And that realization that just because we had a great experience, you know how it is when a kid goes to resident camp for a week and they come home and they're as happy as can be, and then that quickly fades. And so that communication, me building trust with my team members building trust with each other. My relationship with my team does not create a relationship with the other ones. And so them just having the tough conversations, them really thinking about their personal wellness and taking a day for mental health or whatever it needs to be. I think that's been key for us. And moving forward, we've really had that mentality of, if we're in, we've got to be all in, because everything we do is either going to build trust within our team or erode trust. Everything we do is either going to build trust in the community or erode trust. And we've tried to consistently, so often we're so focused on getting impact stories for donors. And I think we tend to forget to tell those stories to our own family first. And if you don't feed the team, they'll eat the members. And so making sure that we are communicating with our team and letting them know what you're doing is a big part of this whole picture here. And this is what we're able to do with the community. And this is what our parents are telling us. And this is what community members are saying to us. And this is the money we've been able to raise because of you, and making sure we're doing what we can to feed, to fill their tank. And again, for the leaders to put on, making sure I'm taking care of myself so I can put on that face of, we got this, let's go. Because if I start to show doubt, things will erode quickly. So it's again, there probably wasn't one rallying cry, but it was that we're in this together, and we're going to find a way, because we got the passion, we're hungry, and we're going to make it happen because our community desperately needs us to make it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wrote down that quote about, we don't feed our staff, they'll eat the members. that's I'm going to steal that one. We've talked a little bit about online and virtual, and how we, I think Todd, you had said this is more of an and going forward. I'm just curious, would you be willing to share, at a kind of a tactical level, of who are some of your partners that you're using, just for our audience to kind of see, because this is a tough one, right? It's like Baskin Robbins. There's 30 plus different flavors of what online might be. But do you have any people that you're using, or techniques or tricks that you've learned that you could share?
I think a couple of things are true. I think when we first moved to online, everyone got a variety of Zoom accounts, and what you could offer could be very much homespun. And I think as we've gone through this, we've recognized that you need to have, I guess I'll call it A++ programming. We've learned how to do breakout rooms. We've learned how to do polls. We've learned, I use this program called Mentimeter from time to time in meetings, so you can create word clouds in real time where people can see it. So I think we've actually challenged ourselves to become the learners we want to be able to maximize the Zoom experience as much as possible, like we're using webinar today and not just meeting. And then I think we also learned that we have to have other platforms that can deliver. We just concluded our 30th annual film festival, and we used a platform called Eventive, which is set up to show film online. Zoom is not set up to show film online. So you have to research, and we found some people in our community that knew a bit, and we read a bit, and we've used different platforms like that to be appropriate for the thing that you're doing. We also learned that we have to take a little bit of time at the beginning of meetings to talk about mute, to talk about how to raise your hand, where is the chat, how do you find the participant. And while that sounds silly, it actually helps the user have a better experience because you don't have the anxiety. It's no different than some of the things that you do in person. And I think there's going to be more and more that comes out that will enable us to all be better at using this platform. But just because you're using Zoom, we still have to have the same standard of excellence that we wanted to have. It was around Passover time when we closed, and we wanted to create a Passover Seder, which is the meal that people have and they do together. And we all recorded it on our iPhone or on our computer, and we moshed it together. And it really was terrific. And now we would say, okay, so we have to have a common background, and we're going to have it and it would have a much different product, because it would not be tolerated, quote unquote, to not have the A++ level, because people are so saturated. I think I've watched everything that Netflix has to offer. So I think people are so saturated being in front of their screen that you have to do something that really grabs their attention. And what was okay back in March probably isn't going to grab their attention in the same way today. It's no longer cool that we can be in 4 boxes or 6 boxes in front of each other.
I got to ask, what was your favorite Netflix show or documentary or movie you watched? Oh
my goodness. I actually just watched this weekend Malcolm and Marie, which was really a terrific movie. And I spent lots of time watching old episodes of The West Wing until they took it off. Maybe I overwatched.
It's your fault. Okay. All right. Very good. Theresa, just any tips or tricks that you're doing online or technologies take advantage of you could share with our audience?
Yeah, pretty much like everyone else, we launched our own online, took advantage of whoever was offering some free services for workouts and things like that for online. We did in mid-November, we launched Burn Along, and that is definitely gaining some attention and some traction, and it's the virtual workouts, but it's also where we have our own instructors teaching. A lot of Ys are already doing that. It's connecting some of those members back to that instructor that they just loved. And that's extremely popular. And then, it has other classes as well. I mean, it has things about your dogs, your pets, your kids, whatever that is. So it's entertaining, it's fun. It has a really diverse library, if you will. And we've also tapped into some talent that we have on staff. We have two young ladies who have just this talent. They have a strong background in health and wellness, not just personal training, but mental wellness, those types of things. And so now we've launched a podcast with them that is gaining some traction as well. People are enjoying just hearing some different information, and I guess in a different way. So for us, and one of the things that we did too that has been very popular is that, especially for our seniors, we created so they can go online and they can fill out like a little form that says, I need someone to call me, or I need some help with XYZ. And then we have staff that stand by that are ready to jump in and to help those seniors where they need help, those types of things. So
I think everybody has seen the lawyer who had the cat face on his Zoom call. That for me is like the highlight of the whole COVID thing. I promise you, I'm not a cat.
Yeah, those are great. We definitely share those around the office as well to give people a lift to their day. That went around last week, so yeah.
Absolutely. Kurtis, how are y'all attacking the online virtual piece?
So I have a different perspective on technology, and I with my team, I try to remind them that technology doesn't put people in community, right? And anytime we're using technology, it should only enhance our secret sauce, which is relationship. And essentially the J, the Y, when you boil it down, we are about relationships. So if we are expecting it to take the place of relationship, it's not going to work, because that's what people are really wanting. That's what makes people keep coming back. That's what helps them achieve their goals, is because of those relationships they've made. And for us, so when of course, we did fail as fast as possible when we started doing online classes. But a key thing for us is we wanted to have their instructor on there, and not just their instructor for the class time, but their instructor after the class as well. And so they would spend 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes after the class just talking with their class. And at a time when, some of our members, some of the seniors, they were alone. They were living alone, and they looked forward 2 days a week, seeing that familiar face and hearing his corny jokes and all of that stuff, because it gave people a moment of hope of, we got this, we're going to make it through, we're here for each other. And so, and for me, I like to depend on the experts. So, we're not going to be creating most likely our own studio and all that stuff. There's people that are set up to do that already. So we really tried to focus on how can we use this technology to enhance relationship building.
Yeah, my dad lives alone, and same kind of thing. I worry about him. He had a heart attack and had to have several surgeries and stuff right before COVID, and then he was going and he was getting back in health, and then he had to stop that because he's afraid of getting COVID. And that whole just connecting with another person is so essential right now. Let me wind up with this question. We'll start, Todd, with you, top of the order. Is the future going to be worse, the same, or better than now? And what is one or two things on why you believe that to be the case? So if you think it's going to be better, it's going to be better because of this or this or this. If it's going to be worse, pass. Don't answer the question. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Todd.
Well, I am blessed with being an eternal optimist, and I believe that the future is actually going to be better. And I think it's going to be better because I think we realize how important community is to us. I think we realize how we can be dependent upon each other. I think we've all discovered something about ourselves that we didn't know that will help us advance our work and deepen our purpose. And I think that the future is going to be better because of all the things that we've been able to do, where the truth is, during this last 11 months, we could have all just mailed it in, and we didn't. I think across the Y movement, across the J movement, everyone leaned in hard and said, we've really got a mission and a purpose to serve, and we're going to do what we can to serve that in any way that we can until we can be back together the way that we want to. And that may be a blend of online and in person, but we're going to do it. And I think that as we look at what's happening now, we're starting to see a community respond with more and more depth. I think we're feeling a sense of optimism in terms of what we're seeing in terms of day camp registration. People are ready. They're looking beyond the spring semester into the summer. So I think we're going to be better because the situation will get better. And as a people, we recognize the interdependence that we can have on each other.
Yeah, totally agree. Theresa, worse, same, better.
Oh, better for sure.
And I'll remind you, I am on the board.
Yeah, definitely. No, better. I'm with Todd. I believe that it has, I don't know, sometimes every now and then, maybe you do need a reset to really evaluate and check your priorities. And I think this is what this has done. It has really, I think we value, we value some of our own family members better because we've had to spend so much time with them, or we value some of our long distance friendships. Friends that you lost in the past, or, that you've lost contact with in the past, that you've reconnected with during this time. We value, I think, each other in the workplace because, through this, you really see the staff that rise, right? That has the positive attitude. Put me wherever you need me. Yeah, I'll clean toilets. I don't care. You see all of that in the people. And I think it's just inspiring. You appreciate your community. You appreciate the mom and pop stores that have been struggling, that are still hanging on. And I think it's just the way that you just approach it. It has to get better. I believe in the human spirit. I do. I believe that we are coming out of this and we want to be together. I will share this. It's interesting. So, I've been working out of my garage. I still work out of my garage, and I do Les Mills. And so I'm part of the Les Mills community. And somebody posed the question, when the gyms reopen, you got to understand, this is like people from all over the world on this group chat. And will you be going back? So many people said, absolutely. Love working out at home, love having this, but I will do both. I have to be back in my gym. And the number of people that kept saying they're going back to their facility, they're going back to the workout, they miss their friends, they have to have that human contact. It made me feel really good. But I believe in that. I believe you've got to have that contact with each other.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there is a yearning. I'm not sure who shared this earlier. There's part of the human experience that we are drawn to be connected to each other. We're not, I've got a few people in my family. Maybe they were meant to live alone. No, I'm just kidding. Little joke there. They could be watching. It's a joke. But no, I mean, for the vast majority, we do. That's part of the human experience, is sharing, learning, growing from each other. I think that, you look at some of the conventional metrics of work at home kind of things have exploded. People have bought gear, all that kind of stuff. But, you can only do so many push-ups and burpees in your garage, and you want to go and, have that. And so, yeah, I'm totally there with you. I think it's going to snap back really, really fast, really, really hard, if we've done all the things that the three of you have done about building those relationships and showing who we are and showing up in this time of need where people are like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I want to be a part of that. Kurtis, worse, the same, or better? And is there one or two things you could share with our audience about why you believe that they might be able to implement in their place?
Yeah, like Todd, I watch Pollyanna a lot and I drink the Kool-Aid. So I'm always playing the glad game, and I believe better. And I think it's better because this last year has taught us what we're really about, right? And we're really about relationship. That's our secret sauce. Everything else is just the carrot to get people in community. And if we stay focused on that, realizing that just because we arrived now doesn't mean we're going to stay there, but that we focus on building trust, building community, staying in relationship, and being on mission. Yeah, I'm very excited about the future. I believe we have a new foundation laid. And Ron, just so for your family members, just so you know, we are called to love everyone, but we're not called to spend time with everyone. So it's okay if you keep your distance from some of them.
Fair point. Fair point. A friend of mine texted me this earlier this morning. He said, you know, it can never get darker than midnight. And I feel, and we're in a unique position at Daxco. Pre-pandemic, we had about 18,000 wellness facilities globally in 145 countries, and we rode that roller coaster down really, really fast. And it was, as you all know, extremely painful for all of us. And then it's trickling back up. I too share your optimism. I think it's going to snap back faster than what we believe, especially when people start feeling safe and the vaccines and all these things. I think they're going to be exponentially impactful because people are just dying to get back. And I think the summer will be that renaissance. And it's interesting how these seasons have unfolded before us. And then, you know, we also have history. I'm a huge history buff, and you only have to go back 100 years ago to understand that the psychology of the Roaring '20s was driven by this horrible thing that's called Spanish flu that occurred that took the lives of millions and millions and a very significant percentage of people across the globe. So I think there's going to be those things that are going to feed into this. And the three of you as leaders in your communities are just great examples of how you're accelerating and will accelerate that connection that is in the community. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your best practices. We're gonna send this out in the universe. We had a whole bunch of people attend today, and we're gonna repurpose it. And hopefully this can be something that can pour some accelerant on our better future together. I'll turn it back over to Kelsey with any housekeeping. But again, I just want to say thank you so much, Todd, Theresa, Kurtis, for sharing all your authentic truth and what you're doing. And if there's anything we can do at Daxco to support or help you, let us know. Kelsey?
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining. I know we are a little over and people are falling off. If you do have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us, marketing@daxco.com. We will be sending out a recording and we'll have a blog post on some of the key takeaways. So we'll be sure to send that out too. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we can certainly put you in contact with any of our panelists today too. But thank you. This was great. And I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.